I know you've noticed either in yourself or your clients that anytime we go out to try and achieve a new goal, there is this resistance shows up. It makes things feel harder than they need to be. It feels like muddy. And sometimes your clients want to run the other way. And maybe you've even done that too. And in today's episode, we are talking about the real reason behavior change feels so hard and how to understand what type of resistance either you are stuck in or your client is stuck in and how to move it out of the way. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Best Damn Coach podcast. I am Amanda. I am your host for today's episode and all the episodes, in fact, of the BDC podcast. As today's episode drops, we are officially 6 days away from Best Damn Coach Live. You guys, the girls are so pumped. We have Sunday mornings walk and talk ready. We're going to be meeting at the cutest juice shop. We're going to be meeting all the other amazing women that are showing up and even girls that are just from the area. We have optional headshot to jump into on Sunday. Sunday evening is VIP dinner, and the event kicks off Monday, the 13th, and we run 9 to 4. The content I prepared is fueling me. It's going to honestly be just such a projection of what is needed right now inside the coaching industry. Monday night, we're having a hangout session at a local restaurant, and then Sunday we wrap it all up with a day two, and we with a culminating happy hour. So I'm just really honored. It's so cool on my end to just watch women from all over the US and Canada come and join us. I don't take that lightly. And if you're listening to this, there's still time. We have just a few tickets left. I would love for you to be in this room with us to here's what it really boils down to. If you want something different, you have to change your environment. You have to be in the energy of like people doing the same things and be inspired and hopeful by people who are already doing what you're doing, or be that inspiration to someone else. So it is not too late to join us. We have a few remaining tickets. Head on over to amanda-walker.com/BDC live, and I will put that in the show notes. And I cannot wait to see you there. Use code BDC Live 200 to get $200 off. Now, I think it's funny as we dive into today's episode because naturally, anytime we go after something, there will be resistance. And I don't think the topic that we're talking about today gets talked about nearly enough. But I think even you might be feeling this right now. You're like, I want to go to the event, but like my family, but like this thing, but this schedule, but all these things. This is a form of resistance. And today, this is what we're going to shine a light on because I think often coaches will go out and coach their clients, and their client doesn't go out and do the thing they said they're going to do. And sometimes we feel like it's us. What am I doing wrong? And it kind of repels us from wanting to be a coach. I hear this often from people who have left the industry, or even thriving coaches are like, this is more challenging than I thought it would be. And welcome to the club, because that is part of the process. You have to learn to fall in love with it, but you also have to detach from it and recognize it as part of the process. So we're talking about something that I don't think gets talked about enough. And it could be the reason that your clients are kind of stalling out, they're dropping off, they're quietly disappearing. It's actually not necessarily about you. But at that point, sometimes when we see this happening, we assume clients aren't following through because they don't want it bad enough, or they're not connected to their why. And what if potentially that is the wrong diagnosis altogether? So I want you to stay tuned to the end, because if this is familiar for you in coaching, or maybe this is yourself, you're like, Amanda, that's me. I commit to something and I fall off and there's resistance and I run away, or it gets hard, or I try something new and shiny objects, then this episode is for you. Definitely want to stick around because I'm going to give you the exact solution, how to see it in yourself and how to see it in your clients for sure. But I think you can think about, if you would bring to mind a time where you were pursuing a goal. And if you can't think of that, maybe a client you're coaching currently and the goal that they are pursuing. And you were pushing towards this goal, and you hit a wall. And there was this stuff inside. And every time you went to try to go take action on the thing, you just felt like, And you started to wonder, like, is it because I don't want it? Maybe something just felt off for you. or heavy or hard to explain. And I want to say we should normalize this conversation because this is something I have most definitely feel. I'm literally feeling it right now as I'm working to accomplish my 1,000 miles of running this year. The third month is over. I'm officially at like 265 miles. So I am on point. I am 25% of the way there, but I'm going to tell you right now, I am facing resistance. But what I didn't know years ago helps me understand why I'm experiencing it now. And that resistance is a very normal and predictable part of behavior change. And that's the kind of conversation I want you to normalize is sometimes we talk about resistance and you're like, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm resisting this. And then a coach, and this is no blame on you if you say this, like, we got to get to your 7 layers of why and why and why and why. I am 100% guilty of years ago walking my clients through this exercise and thinking like this is going to be the magic pill that just makes resistance go away. And in fact, it is not. So when a client comes to us, like let's just picture what's happening. They have a goal in mind. They're like, hey, I'm working with you because I have this problem and you're going to be this solution. You're going to walk me through the framework to find the solution of what I need. And no matter if it's ourselves walking through towards a solution or our clients, unconsciously we have this vision that this path is going to be pretty linear. One of the presuppositions of the unconscious mind is that we like steps, we like clarity, we like a path. The problem with that is that there's this duality that no journey we take is ever linear. It's very windy. And so for them, it's very logical. I hire a coach, I do the work, I get the result. And so sometimes they don't even anticipate there being a roadblock in the way. The reality is, though, is change is inherently uncomfortable. Doing something new creates friction. Even if it's a good thing, it creates friction, right? If we go out and we begin to change our eating habits, there's friction from the people we love. Why are you being that way? There's friction because our friends are like, let's go out, have drinks, like just eat the pizza this one time. There's friction because you don't want to set your alarm clock and meal prep or do Sunday prep. And so when we see this friction, sometimes here is the misdiagnosis is as a coach, we think, man, if there's friction there, it's because they don't want it bad enough. Or it's because they're not connected to their vision, their deep why. And or it's because we think they need more accountability. And while all those things could be true and walking our clients through the exercises necessary to unpack those things is highly valuable, the real issue is this is that resistance is a built-in feature of change. It's not a flaw in you and it's not a flaw in your client. And instead, what we need to do is like point it out. We need to name it and we need to learn to co-create with it. It's kind of like this, just this idea of feelings in general. Resistance can feel things. And when we feel uncomfortable emotions, the opportunity we have is to totally dodge out and go a different direction, right? When I feel sad, I try to dodge out and go do something that's going to make me happy, right? We want to avoid the discomfort, the uncomfortable feelings that come from change. And instead, we we get the opportunity to shift that. We can't coach around something we haven't necessarily named for our client. And the truth is, most coaches haven't named this. And I think this is your huge opportunity for both yourself and for your client. And one of my clients and I were coaching who has a lot of training in this. And as we were talking about resistance, because she was seeing it in herself. And also, she's like, I coach my clients on this very thing, but we haven't named it. And we were able to identify where this resistance was coming from. And it's because, well, she had another idea of something she was interested in pursuing. And so, what we're going to do is kind of identify and name the two types of resistance that exist and give some key things that you can do with your clients to help move through this resistance. And even using the word overcome doesn't necessarily feel true because it is learning to like do the thing even though the resistance exists. So, the first type of resistance is called process resistance. And this type of resistance lives in the doing, right? The name kind of implies that we're going to do the thing. And in the process of doing the thing, in the day to day, the mundane tasks, the unsexy work, the practical steps required to reach the goal, The client kind of wants the outcome, but the everyday execution feels super heavy, hard, and honestly avoidable. And so, what your client might say are things like, I've made some notes here. I know what I need to do. I just can't make myself do it. Or I started strong and then I just totally stopped. I don't know why it's so hard. It just shouldn't be this hard. And so, what it might look like on your end is they totally skip the tasking that you assign them. They're showing up to sessions unprepared. There's like lots of effort and very low lift tasks. They're doing a lot of what I call productivity. And it's just inconsistency with the strategy, even when they consciously feel like they understand it with you. And so here's a really great metaphor that I think we can all relate to. It's imagine someone hires a personal trainer because they want to lose 30 pounds, they want to get fit, they want to be in the best shape of their life, and they're 100% committed to the goal. But every morning the alarm goes off early at 5 a.m. and the bed feels like so heavy. It's pulling them in. They don't get out of bed. Like the goal hasn't changed. They still want the thing. The desire hasn't changed. It's just the process, the waking up, the getting dressed, the driving to the gym. That's where kind of like the everyday war is. And the action required feel new and uncomfortable. Like they've never been the person that's had to do these things to get the outcome. And so the brain is like, you know, I really like the familiar things, not this uncomfortable stuff, this unfamiliar thing you're making me do. And so, what I really want to say is the beginning part of me, because I was someone who attacked things that felt uncomfortable in most areas of my life. For me, I would sometimes be like, this person doesn't want it, or look at it as a character issue, but it's really it's a neurology issue. It's just understanding the science of rewiring patterns and adherence, right? The study of behavior adherence. There's so many great articles. I'll even link to some if you're a sciencey person that loves to see the behavior patterns and adherence that really helps us understand process resistance better. So that's process resistance. Outcome resistance is actually what my client I was mentioning was experiencing. Outcome resistance, again, as the name applies, is resistance to the thing they actually want. This is kind of sneaky. And the client says they want the goal, but there's this very subconscious or even conscious, they might articulate it, resistance to actually having it. The outcome itself carries some sort of maybe weight or life thing that they don't know if they actually want. In my client's case, she wanted this coaching business, but she has small children. And as she started coaching, she was like, but maybe I don't want to show up in front of Zoom consistently and have this whole client roster. What I thought I wanted was a full roster. And now as I do it, I'm actually resistant to the outcome because I don't want to be trapped on the screen. And so what it sounds like is self-sabotage, or what it looks like is like right before a big breakthrough or getting close and then pulling back, which is what I was seeing in my client. But saying I want this, but acting in ways that totally move away from it, or just fear that shows up as procrastination or perfectionism. And you're like, dude, come on. And so I think a tangible thing is like what this could look like is a coach who says they want more clients, as I said, but avoid showing up online. It's like, I don't want to post. I don't want to do these things. I don't want to post webinars. I don't want to talk to people. Or someone who wants to lose weight, but unconsciously uses it as identity or protection. I just love the way I feel actually in this skin. Or I don't want my friends to like think differently of me. Or just another example is a client who builds momentum and then just it's like burns the whole thing to the ground. A metaphor of this is it's kind of like standing in a hallway with a door in front of you. You see it. You've been telling everyone you want exactly what's on the other side. But the closer you get to the door, the more reasons you find like, man, I'm not going to open that door. It's not that you don't want what's there. It's there's this part of you that's terrified of who you'll have to be once you walk through that door. And so a lot of times the root cause underneath this is there's some sort of secondary gain to staying small and not being visible and not making those changes. It's fear of the unknown. It's the perceived loss of this current self that they are that might change if they're on the other side, or just like the fear of failure, or for some of you, it's the fear of success. So the key distinction here is process resistance is friction of the journey. Outcome resistance is basically friction of the outcome or fear of the final destination. And so you might hear yourself inside of these things. I sure as heck do in parts of it. And I'm working through this very thing right now in something that I'm working on in my business. And I've been through versions of it and many changes that I've experienced. So I want to talk a little bit about how do we call these things out? How do we actually, how do we coach these two types really is what we're looking at. So I think in both of these is just calling them out and naming them. That's the most important thing, is normalizing the conversation that they are not broken, that resistance comes as part of the process. This is a natural part of behavior change so that it doesn't make them feel shameful or guilty or embarrassed. That's what my client said. She's like, I spent all this money I invested. I'm just so embarrassed and I'm not doing the thing. And so it's to teach them, hey, like take this episode, send this episode to them, teach them the difference between these two forms of resistance so they can see themselves inside of it and explain this is what's happening inside your mind. So for process resistance, what I like to do sometimes is bite it down, like take smaller bites. So the thing that they're doing, maybe the actions is maybe they just took on way too much. They change their meal plan, they change their sleep patterns, they change. And this is a very much a coaching flaw that I was guilty of, is it was too much behavior change at once. And so then we have to back it out and like, we're just going to focus on the food right now. And actually what we're just going to do is focus on breakfast. Let's get that accomplished. And then what we can do is build identity around that change of behavior, not someone who's trying to be consistent. You're just the person who shows up consistently to work on this thing that you really want. And consistency, basically, in getting this tiny thing over time is better than high intensity perfection over time. So, what you then try to say is, okay, our goal this week is like, let's get 5 out of 7 days of solid breakfast and then move on to like the next thing, right? And so, this helps them begin to see that actually the process isn't that hard. They're not aiming for perfection. And we're looking at what could this look like a year from now, not necessarily like how do I get to the goal as fast and hard as possible right now, because that is a lot of pressure. For outcome resistance, there's a few things to really think about. Is if they really are struggling with that goal, I like to future pace them out into the future. So if you really lost the 50 pounds, or if you really had a better marriage, or if you really made 100K, what in your life would actually change? So I want them to actually be in the future and see that it's probably not as scary as their minds is a great journaling activity. Maybe explore the rewards and consequences. What might they have to give up? What would this change? Man, if they have a six-figure job, then may or a business, maybe that means they're going to have to give up their other gig, and that's scary because of course that's steady income, right? I see a lot of coaches in this position. And so the outcome they're resisting is they want the thing, but when they are getting ready to leave the 9 to 5, that transition and safety net of the income becomes very viable. So they're at the door, they're ready to open it, but like, I don't know what to do. And then we can do that identity work. Okay, what do you need to do to become the person that's okay with leaving the 9 to 5? Oh, okay. So you need to build a cash savings of $10,000. That makes you feel safe. Cool. So like that's the goal. Let's work to save up to the 10,000. That gives you a couple months of income or whatever the case is. But what I like to really teach is I want them to explore their brain because they probably have a lot of story going on up there that isn't necessarily accurate. And you want to watch because sometimes this process problem could look like an actual outcome problem. So if someone is consistently avoiding the work, your job is to dig deep and figure out what they are really avoiding. So again, I think the important thing to understand here is you're human if you experience resistance. Anytime we're doing something new, whether it's running a 5K, whether it's trying new food. I mean, it's the most simple example, whether it's parenting, whether it's growing a business, losing weight, is there is resistance. It's our job as coaches to normalize it and help them identify the origin of that resistance so that you guys can name it. You can work together to chunk it down, to identify it, see if it's really rational or not. And so if you care about these kind of conversations and getting better at coaching, this is part of the work that we do inside the BDC as well. I know I'm on the podcast talking a lot about business strategy because you guys love that. And my metrics always say that the times you talk about business are the things that are the most downloaded. But what I also want you to know is you're going to grow your business by being a better coach. And these are the kind of constant conversations we have inside the BDC as well. And so if you want to talk more about how the BDC can support you to develop better coaching mastery and coaching skill set, as well as actually know how to build a business, I would love to talk more about you and get you this year to where you want to be. And my calendar is open for those conversations at amanda-walker.com/let's chat. That link is also inside the show notes. So I hope today's episode really helped you see resistance inside yourself and understand that the journey to change is never linear with you or your clients. And if the content that I talked about today really resonates, I would love for you to just copy and paste the link, whether you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, from the website directly, and just send it to a coach friend that you think would really benefit from having a deeper understanding of the natural tendency of what resistance looks like in any type of setting a goal and chasing it and really achieving the things that we have on our heart. So until next week, go coach them up.